My high school days are over and done with. I went in there, did what I needed to do, got my diploma, and got the hell out of there, and I haven't looked back. In the eyes of society, I am now a certified grown-up. It was a long journey, with many highs and lows, trials and tribulations, friends and enemies made. No girlfriends, though. Some things never change, do they? Now all I gotta deal with is student loans, finding a job, taxes, watching our planet's environment collapse from catastrophic climate change, and eventually dying. I even got my selective service letter in the mail. That's how you know. I'm a big boy now. But hey, at least I can swear on my YouTube videos without worrying about getting in trouble with my school, so that's a plus. And that also means there have been things I've been dying to talk about that I can finally talk about. So, come and join me as I take one final look back and close the book on this chapter of my life, so I never have to speak of it again, and get some much needed closure and cathartic relief, and finally move on. So let's just jump in and tear this band-aid off. I don't know about you, but for me, math teachers have always been pretty hit and miss. There have been a few who have been genuinely incredible and went the extra mile to help students learn the material and succeed. But others, not so much. For me, the majority of them have ranged from mediocre to incompetent to outright insufferable. Some of them just aren't good at communicating and teaching the material in an engaging way. Others may assign 4.5 hours of homework in the middle of a pandemic when you're stressed and depressed to all hell already. And some of them just may make the same tired dad jokes and make weird flirtatious comments to that one specific 15-year-old girl in their class. But for me, there is one teacher in particular who stands out to me as the worst teacher I've ever had. One that makes my blood boil with anger and resentment even after I haven't seen her face or spoken a word to her in over 4 years. A bad teacher can destroy a student's passions for a subject, shatter their self-esteem, and set them up for failure all at the same time. Sometimes it feels like parents and school administration don't understand the damage a bad teacher can cause. Taking charge of your own learning and turning in all your work can only do so much. And side note, if it ever reaches the point where you are told to take charge of your own learning, I think that's a red flag in itself. It's your job title. You are a teacher. And if I have to figure out how to teach myself, then what the hell are you being paid to do? Be a glorified babysitter who abuses the power she has over her impressionable students to cope with their own insecurities because our school system teaches kids to have unconditional deference to the authority of our adult superiors and therefore nobody bothers to take off for themselves because then it's insubordination or trying to get them fired no matter what the teacher does to warrant such a response? I'm going to get mad this video. It's gonna destroy my throat. Halls hit me up. I'm a big fan. So anyway, let's call this teacher Miss Bob for big ol' bully. She was my math teacher during my 7th and 8th grade years, and she was the worst. It's bad enough to be a bad teacher, but Miss Bob wasn't just a bad teacher, she was a big ol' bully too. It doesn't help that her immediate predecessor was actually one of my favorite math teachers and was my first and so far only teacher crush, so she had a lot to live up to. I would dread going to her class every day, my grades steadily spiraling downward. Some days I would fake sick just to get out of her class. Sorry, Mom, but I did what I needed to do for my own sake. But things didn't get real bad until my 8th grade year when my brother finally aged into having her as his math teacher. She bullied my brother relentlessly, humiliating him in front of the class as she wrote emails to my mom. One afternoon, she lost one of his homework assignments, and then he emailed my mom about how he didn't turn it in. So my mom did what she thought she had to do. She got my brother in trouble for something he did not do, only for a couple hours later, Miss Bob emailing my mom back and saying she found it. So not only did she end up inflicting needless psychological torment upon my brother, but she played my mom for a fool too. Honestly, I doubt she actually lost the assignment in the first place, but just decided to email my mom about a non-existing missing assignment just because she was feeling bored and extra malevolent that night, and that's how she got off. Eventually, my brother and parents got fed up, and Miss Bob's relentless abuse was a contributing factor in him transferring to another school in the middle of the year. I only had about half of my 8th grade year left, so I decided to stick it out to the end. But when my brother transferred, that's when the bullying came to me. Side note, nobody gets to mess with my brother besides me, alright? I remember when my dog died, she mocked me about taking a day off to grieve when I came to talk to her about what I had missed. So of course, naturally, when her dog got taken away because it bit somebody at her husband's work, I had to throw just a little bit of shade her way. Yeah, I know it's mean, but when you mess with me, I mess with you. It's just how things work around here, okay? Another time, she got rid of a homework assignment that I had turned into her earlier in the class period, only to claim that she never got it and confronted me in front of the class. losing assignments, marking me down for no reason on tests, and psychological torment. It's a wonder how I never did erupt like a Vesuvius into a fiery volcanic rage, only comparable in strength to the sheer fury I feel when my aunt posts conspiracy theories about the COVID vaccine on Facebook. Just get your fucking shot, Beth. A very handsome and very smart YouTuber made a whole video about why you should. Oh yeah, did I mention she was bad at teaching too? I kinda forgot about that. When all was said and done, it was actually miraculous that I even passed her class at all. And if it weren't for a single point of extra credit on the last day of class, I wouldn't have. But when all was said and done, I get to talk about my terrible experience with you for content. So who really gets the last laugh here, Miss Bob? Substitute teachers are one of the most underappreciated and underrespected parts of the education system. They are the only reason things don't grind to an absolute standstill when your teacher accidentally amputates their thumb with a canoper and conspicuously takes a sick day on Red Dead Redemption 2's launch day. Yeah, I'm on to you. In high school, more often than not, if your teacher is gone for a day or two, the substitute is just another full-time teacher at that same school who just doesn't have a class that period. But that's boring. Some subs are really chill. They just hang out while we do an easy worksheet the teacher assigned and don't really give a shit about what you do after you're done. Sometimes they just put on some YouTube videos or a documentary for the class, and unlike 75% of the actual full-time teachers we have, they're actually capable of using the YouTube video player. Like, seriously, it's 2021. How do you not know that you can click anywhere on the screen to pause a video, or that you can turn autoplay off, or that 5-minute pre-roll is actually skippable? Then there are the subs who are always around and end up being hired full-time because they're just cool and everybody likes them. There's a significant overlap between these types of subs and the ones from the previous category. Then there are the old clueless ones who realize that Social Security alone isn't enough to sustain their standard of living, so they have to resort to trying to keep a handle on a class of unruly, raging, prepubescent teenagers to scrape up some cash because they don't know what OnlyFans is. These are the subs I feel the worst for, because they're just trying their best, but they're always the ones who get pushed around by the class just because they're an easy target, and for that I have mad respect for. But the ones I don't have mad respect for are the ones that act like they are entitled to a level of respect and deference that not even a normal teacher gets, and they melt down like a petulant child or a disgraced former president who got banned from Twitter. This was the case for one infamous substitute I had one day in my freshman year honors algebra class when somebody questioned a questionable decision he had made. He lashed out at the entire class. If I were a guest in your home, would you treat me like this? If you were a guest in my home and acted like this, you'd never be welcome there again. And maybe consider your tone next time you're asking me for respect. Now go sit the fuck down. I don't think anybody appreciated that, because I never saw him again after that day. Dress codes have always been one of the more controversial areas of school discipline. Like, I swear, whenever a school administrator sees an exposed shoulder or the slightest sliver of midriff, they act like it's the end of days. The gates of hell are going to swing open, the sky be torn asunder, and soon enough Jesus Christ himself will return to exact his divine judgment upon this earth. And you, ma'am, will be damned for all eternity because you dared to wear a crop top to school. Okay, calm down. Here's my take. Dress codes for high school are kinda dumb. If you're comfortable, confident, and aren't hurting anybody, who the hell cares? No, you aren't a distraction to the boys. That's just another problematic justification they use. If I wanted to be distracted in that way, I'd just go on Google Images and turn Safe Search off. Actually, my high school formally abolished the dress code before my junior year, but they replaced it with something worse, using Christian morality to slut-shame girls into covering up. Back in April, when things were starting to get hot, climate change kicking in, my principal sent out an incredibly condescending email asking students to consider whether their dress sense respects the sacredness and dignity of the human body. What does that mean? First off, I don't know about any of you, but no part of my body ever has or ever will be sacred. And secondly, God must have some real big body image trouble if he made us in his own image but doesn't want us to be proud of our bodies. My God, is there something you want to talk about, man? Does this scare you? Do you feel threatened right now? Just remember, I was made in your image. And immediately, everybody in the school piled onto the principal and started rightfully mocking her for such a message because it was dumb and ridiculous. Some of the in-person students even started organizing a crop top day the following Friday to protest the principal.
Can your pure Christian eyes even handle this? Look at my disrespect for the sacred nature of my body.
I've already accepted that if there's a God, I'm going straight to hell when I die. At school that day, there was an assembly discussing the dress code in the email, which the principal had an epic-style meltdown about, claiming that the people were cyberbullying her and that all of the students were so privileged that this is what they had to worry about. First off, tell me you've never been cyberbullying without saying you've never been cyberbullied. You publicly said something condescending and dumb on the internet. People are going to rightfully pillory you for it. That wasn't cyberbullying. It was just you facing the consequences for your actions. And if you can't handle that, maybe don't say stuff like that. And secondly, what the fuck?
You little privileged shits. Black people are being gunned down in the streets by police, and all you have to care about is not being slut-shamed for the way you dress. Bigoted assholes.
She didn't actually say that, I was paraphrasing. Ah, the classic whataboutism. A strategy employed by people to defend the indefensible by accusing you of being worse. You know what? This behavior kind of reminds me of somebody. Needless to say, that whole situation was a bit of an embarrassment, and might I say, if you don't want to face that kind of scrutiny, maybe never consider seeking a position of authority, especially a position of authority over children. I'm just saying. This is the one story I've been dying to tell on my channel for a really long time, and it's the whole reason I even made this video in the first place. I remember back in the day I made a duology of videos called When Jokes Go Too Far, where I discussed the hijinks that ensued at school when a joke escalated to the point of evolving into a different beast entirely. But this was the only time such a joke resulted in actual discipline and consequences being handed down. I'm sure if you've been on the internet before, you've seen that one copypasta story about mandatory penis inspection day. It originated on Yahoo Answers in 2010, rest in peace, before being reposted on Reddit and spread around the internet. And yes, I bet all of you know where this is going, so I'll just forego the setup and cut right to the chase. It was May 2019, towards the end of my sophomore year of high school. This was when my high school actually had competent leadership, so scandals and wacky happenings were relatively few and far between. And I was bored. I wanted to do something that would get the entire school talking and just make things a little bit more interesting. So, on the night of Tuesday, May 14th, 2019, I had an idea that would simultaneously be the funniest and worst thing I have ever done. I made a poster informing all of the male students of my high school about a mandatory penis inspection that would be held in PE, health, and theology classes. I made it look as official as I could, slapping the logo of the school on there for good measure. I still have a PDF of the poster sitting on my desktop to this day. I messaged some friends on Snapchat, and before long we had a plan of attack. I printed out a dozen copies of the poster, and at lunch the following day, we put up one of those posters in every single men's bathroom in the school. I was not the sole perpetrator. I was just the mastermind. We slipped out and gathered on the football field. I gave everybody several copies of the poster and scotch tape, and we went on our way. We went bathroom to bathroom to bathroom, putting up posters. By the end of lunch, our plan had been executed, and we made it back to class without any of us being noticed. And just as I hoped, everybody was talking about it within a few minutes, and it was incredible. And nobody knew it was me. For a while, I thought my plan was successful. But, of course, that's not where the story ended. The next day, everything seemed normal until I got the dreaded red slip from the dean demanding that I come to his office immediately. I knew what was coming. I walked into his office and sat down at the table, and the dean pulled out one of the posters I'd put up the day before and set it down in front of me. Despite the gravity of the situation, it was difficult still not to burst out laughing when he slapped the poster down on the table in front of me. And I knew that, knowing this guy, there would be no way to talk myself out of it, so I confessed and said it was me. I did end up taking the fall for most of my co-conspiracies. The funniest part of the whole ordeal was that I had included a clause on the poster saying that if uncircumcised people had unclean foreskin, they would immediately fail the inspection, which he said was discrimination against uncircumcised people, which I did not even know that was possible. I think maybe the dean was just projecting his own insecurities. Maybe he was bullied in the high school gym showers because his dingling looked a little different than the other boys. When all was said and done, I ended up suspended for one day and got impeached from the student council seat I had just been elected to, which was the real injustice. No judge, no jury, no Senate trial, no nothing. An absolute disgrace to that school's democratic system, and it seems like they used it as an excuse to turn over an entirely fair, free, and legitimate election. The thing is, though, There are no security cameras in the bathroom, so somebody had to have known and snitched. Because there was no way in hell he had video footage, and if he did, that's a problem in its own right. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, but I think it's probably illegal. And if he did, all my co-conspirators would have been caught anyway. If only I wasn't so obedient in the face of pressure. But what can I say? I was just looking out for the health of my classmates, so how can you fault me for that?
In retrospect, though, it was totally worth it.
And that's that. I can finally leave my compulsory schooling days behind me. I feel so relieved, so free, like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. This video is dedicated to all the amazing friends I've made over these past few years. This one's for you guys. Thanks for watching, and here's to the future. And if anybody wants to come repossess my diploma, I'm ready for you. Come and take it. I wasn't ready for them.